Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Knights of the Alternate Histories. And boy, am I excited to get back into these alternate histories. When we last left off, well, Britain just entered into a civil war, so that's going to be interesting. And yeah, make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Gonna try and get to 1,000 subscribers. Special announcement at the end if you want to stick around for that. And yeah, let's get into the video. We left off in 1940 with France getting capitulated and the border still being decided on, which is why it's not shown in this map. Winston Churchill leads the southern faction, and Wales and Cornwall still decide for independence. North Ireland, meanwhile, went over to the Irish, and Scotland is now united at trying to stop Oswald Mosley, as the Syndicalists move south to try and take out Edward VIII, who's leading the monarchists. So, with the Syndicalists and the Fascists seeing the truce between Germany and the Comintern, realizing that maybe they can be friends after all, and they would decide that the Syndicalists can have England and Oswald can have Scotland. Even though England would be way more important, Oswald would betray them later, that doesn't really matter. But the Syndicalists would see this as a true friendship that would never get betrayed. This would mean they could take the troops off the border with only small training divisions actually facing each other. This would cause both the Fascists and the Syndicalists to spike. Meanwhile, Edward VIII would focus on trying to take over Wales to get a firm base of power, as soon Churchill would have to recognize Wales' independence as he tries to take over the Labour Party and reconquer all of England. This would lead to a horrible fight on the Wales part. Meanwhile, Wales would not expect this push forward by Edward VIII, with the Syndicalists taking more ground by them, and Oswald would hold his assault, not wanting to try and brave the Highlands just yet. The Labours would almost entirely be wiped out, as it would just be horrible for them, and they would need more German support. Britain, meanwhile, would try and hold off all of these armies coming to invade them. The Syndicalists would now start their main invasion over Edward VIII, who would now try and take over Wales. Cornwall, meanwhile, would stop its push, thinking that, hey, this is enough territory to conquer. Meanwhile, Britain would just keep on fighting. They would try and make an alliance with Edward VIII to see if they can take off the Syndicalists and then the Fascists, but he would refuse. Meanwhile, Oswald Mosley would push more. Germany would give the support Mosley needed, so he could really start his invasion of Scotland, and being faithful that his border south is safe, he would move a major chunk of his divisions. The Scots, however, would hold on and would fight till the dear end, truly becoming the Highlanders instead of Lowlanders like they are now, and using their mountains to advantage to make Mosley pay. I am pretty sure Sabaton would write a song about them. Now, Edward VIII would truly break the Welsh lines and would manage to invade them quite thoroughly. Oswald Mosley would still start fighting, and the Syndicalists would begin their invasion, though Winston Churchill would take them out, and the Labour Party, they would be destroyed. The small parts left of them, and would forced to surrender, as they couldn't hold off 3 armies trying to destroy them. The Syndicalists, now trusting that Oswald Mosley moved his troops up, would push. They would manage to strike hard at Edward VIII, with most of his forces being in Wales, as Britain would try and push against them, but would be relatively met with defeat. Cornwall would get pushed back to what it's trying original independent size being, and Britain would recognize them. Wales would all of a sudden recognize Edward VIII as their crown monarch, and since Britain already recognized their independence, technically they're now at peace against the Syndicalists. Britain, however, would say, yes, Wales, you now are independent, but not itself, not the parts of England it now controls. Edward VIII, happy to get land, would agree to this. A major push by Britain to try and take up Edward VIII's land before the Syndicalists could do would be met with relative ease, as by having Edward VIII move his troops out, preparing to invade the Syndicalists themselves would be relatively easily. Meanwhile, Oswald Mosley could not get past the Scottish defenses they would prepare. He had tried naval invasions, wouldn't work, and would have to dig in and wait this war out. Wells would now prepare to try and take over the Syndicalists, as they would wait for them to be at the right moment and strike them when it's worthy. Meanwhile, Britain would now start actually talking about great peace deals with them, and the war would soon begin against the Syndicalists versus Wales and England. Britain, with the aid of Wales, but Wales not taking any land, of course, would quickly strike them in a heartbeat. Meanwhile, the fascists, seeing a good land grab and obviously not going to be able to take over all of Scotland, would betray their alliance with the Syndicalists, mirroring what's to become with the Germans and the Soviets. This would lead to a horrible invasion attempt, and overall, the Syndicalists would just be destroyed. With Mosley now not being able to break the Scottish, and now choosing to have a truce with England instead of invading them, and Winston wanting to end this bloodshed of British blood, would end the war. Well, until Mosley attacked again. This would mean that the British Civil War would be over by 1942, and the world would become a very, very different place, with German divisions now having even more experience returning home to Germany to decide its final borders. Meanwhile, the Balkans would still be in a state of war. I don't have enough time to show it in this video, but just understand that they're at war with the Axis powers too. The Soviet Union, meanwhile, would remain independent and would remain sticking in everything because they are a good empire, but overall, it wouldn't work that well. This is the map of all the alliances around the world. As you can see, the Balkans are united except for Greece and Turkey. Britain is relatively united, with Portugal, Ireland being the main one controlling them, as they would be the strongest nation, and the Comintern being ready to destroy all, and a Baltic defense force forming, as well as Latvia and Lithuania having each other's backs. However, this is the map of the different ideologies, with purple being monarchism, that weird tan color being fascist, blue being democracy, gray being non-aligned, and silver being a pseudo-democratic force, and red obviously being communism. But the war would also come again in 1943, with Germany and their allies deciding to invade basically whatever is left in the world. The purple being, of course, what they're in the middle of invading of, and the gray being who's staying neutral. And as well as pink, because, Switzerland. Germany would declare war on basically the entire world, and now they would be ready for it. The only major obstacle is the Soviet Union and Britain. I hope you guys liked this alternate history, and here's my announcement. As well as doing a 1,000 subscriber special, working on the 500 subscriber special, we're going to be doing a Discord server. So subscribe if you want to interact with me and be able to talk on Discord. I hope you guys have a good one, and make sure to subscribe if you want this one, and we're going to do the outro again, just to be nice, and yeah, let's get into it. Well, I hope you liked that little 1,000 subscriber special promise. And yeah, working on the 500 sub special, probably going to be a political compass thing. Yeah, I hope you guys do have a good one, because overall, it's really cool just to do stuff. Yeah, I appreciate you all for subscribing and watching my stuff. While recording, we're almost at 800, so let's get up there. Wow, what a great video. On your left, that's a video that I recently uploaded, and on your right, well, that's a video YouTube thinks you should watch. I don't know why, David. Tell me, David, why does YouTube think you should watch that? What significance does this have? Anyways, bye!